Hello, trying to hide from the wind again. Yes, it's still windy. I, for one, am loving it, and I hope it never stops. I've got a big bag of weaving to talk to you about, so I'm going to talk to you about that, and I've got something on the big loom. I don't have anything on the little loom at the moment. I do know what's going on there. It just hasn't made it to the loom yet. Maybe by next week I'll have it warped up, woven and finished. Probably not, but we can live in hope. So last week off the loom I had this, and oops. Oh, lost my bag skills. Now, I haven't pressed this, so pretend that I have, because it would look nicer if I had got around to pressing it. I remembered to trim my ends, and that's about as far as it got. So this has been wet finished, and there's been a little bit of bloom, and basically it's nice and soft and a bit snuggly. It needs a press, as I said, and I'll show you the full length. It's much the same all the way along, but I really like how the yarn has set into those stripes, and I like how it's all looking, and I like the drape. So this yarn, when it comes off the loom, is a little bit stiff, but once it's had a wash, it's lovely and soft and drapey. That's how you show drape. You flop things around. So that is ready to go. I also had the other blue one, which is also wet finished, which is also in my bag, and probably also needs a press, if I'm honest. Here it is. So there's not much visual difference on this one as to last week, because it's mostly acrylic, and acrylic doesn't really tend to do much in a wet finish. It does settle into the weave a little bit, so you do get a more cohesive piece of fabric. Oh, it sounded good. But visually it looks much the same. There's a little bit of shrinkage in the warp, but not a huge amount. And there's the little end bit with, is that an end that I missed? That is. Didn't I just say I'd trimmed my ends? I haven't trimmed that one. Anyway, I will trim that one, and then that one's good to go. Now, on the little loom, I don't think I left a full stop in that. That one's good to go, full stop. Now, on the little loom, I had the rainbow, which is not only off the loom, it is also wet finished. So let me organise my bag. Here it is. I'm not entirely happy with the ends on this one. They're a little bit clunky. It's quite difficult. I'll get that sort of completely in the light. It's quite difficult. I have hardships. Oh, that's an end sticking out as well. Never mind my end bragging. I've not done a good job. The two different thicknesses of yarn made weaving them in a little bit sort of tricksy, doing it by feel rather than by where they should have gone. Did that make sense? Probably not. So I'll show you the full length, because it's a lovely shift through the rainbow spectrum. I like that there's two purples. There's that dark purple there, and then if we move along swiftly, there's this light purple. Now, ordinarily for bright colours like this, I would use a dark warp because it makes the colours brighter. But with this being such a thin yarn, you can just see it in there, and then the weft being such a thick yarn, it doesn't really wash the colours out at all. And this was the skipped dent, but you can't really tell. You might be able to tell if you squint. You might be able to see the lines. There's one there, there's one about there, there's possibly one there, and maybe one there, where I've skipped warping up a slot in the loom. Doesn't really show up as a texture or anything like that. Everything kind of settled and evened itself out. Worth trying, always worth trying. Recently has not really worked out for me though. So I'm not going to stop trying, because I'm going to stop doing that though. I'm not going to stop trying it, because when it does work, it's a really interesting effect. And when it doesn't work, it doesn't look like you were trying anything, so nobody knows. So that's come out really well. That is going in to the order, the big order that I'm doing. Speaking of the big order that I'm doing, I've got the purple, yeah, mostly purple. It's at the bottom of the bag though, so just talk amongst yourselves. Hang on, give us a sec. Now this is not wet finish, and it's not ready to wet finish, because come out of the bag. Would you come out of the bag, please? It's not ready to wet finish because I need both hands for this one. I'm going to hang my bag up and shake the tripod. I haven't done the fringe. So I'll show you how it's come off the loom though. So I haven't even trimmed the fringe. Look at the length of that fringe. I haven't even trimmed it. I need to twist it, and I kind of don't want to because there's a lot of it. So the lighting's not great. I do apologise. So there's the lace off the loom, and then the length. I will show you the length. So it just needs its fringe twisted, and then it's ready to wet finish. And there's the lace at the other end. So I remembered to do the lace at both ends, which is good. Am I showing you that in any kind of good way? I don't know. And then I will have to twist the fringe. I was thinking of leaving the fringe loose, but that is really just me being a bit lazy and not wanting to twist a big wide fringe, because it is quite a big wide fringe. So I will get that fringe twisted, I will get that wet finished, and I will show you next week how that has affected the weave. There won't be much. I'm trying to remember what the warp is. The warp is acrylic, I think. So all of any change in the structure will be from the weft, which is wool. So we'll see how that lace comes out, which is not showing up very well because of the light. There we go. Now, I do have something on the big loom, so I will show you that now. I'm not really sure about it, but let's see how it's going. As is tradition, quite fresh on the loom. There's my hem stitching. Started warping this last night, finished warping it this morning, and did this much weaving. So, it's the hem stitching, as you can see, is a little bit wibbly wobbly. I think that's going to work itself out. I don't know. I'm persevering. I've had some tension issues, which are definitely user error and not yarn error. The yarn for the warp here is Karen's Skinny Cakes. You can see I've taken out the whole middle, which is why it's collapsing on itself a little bit. And then for the weft, I've got Ven Eco Jeans. There's supposed to be 300 metres in there. Look at that. I've bought 2 of these, which should be more than enough. If not, I'll just have to buy some more. Oh no, yarn shopping. Terrible. So it's going. I've changed my plan on this one. So the initial plan was, because I didn't want to cover up all of these beautiful colours, I was going to have a band of unwoven warp. And the way you do that is I didn't bring a cardboard separator. The cardboard separators that you use for the back beam, or some people use for the back beam. So what you normally would, well, what you would do for that is weave maybe that much, a little bit more, a little bit less, up to you. There's no rules. Hem stitch. Put the separator in and then start weaving again, and then hem stitch that new section so that you get a band of just unwoven colour. And that was a good idea, and I was going to do it until I discovered that this yarn, this thread, absolutely ties itself in a knot at the slightest breeze. So hem stitching along the bottom here was, I had to do quite a lot of swearing and a lot of yarn, a lot of thread untangling. And I decided when I was about here that I didn't want to do it any more than I had to. I'll have to do it at the other end. But I decided not to volunteer to do it anymore in the middle. So my plan to not cover up too much of the colour is a pick-up stick pattern, which you can see there. I'm doing a three row pick-up stick pattern, and it's coming up quite nicely on camera. It's not that clear in reality, but that's okay, because my main goal is on the other side to have these colours unwoven on the other side. I will flip the loom in a minute and show you how that's going. So this yarn is pretty decent. The only thing that I found was this horrible colour in the middle of it. So this I had to cut off. Well, I didn't have to, but I chose to, because it would have sat probably about there. So it would have been sitting in there between the green and the purple. And it's just, it's not grey, it's not, oh, it's not in shot. It's not grey, it's not brown, it's just a nothingy colour. And it's horrible. So I cut that out. I don't think there's another, oh, there is another repeat of that. Look, there it is. Oops, there it is, just in there. So when I use the rest of this, I will also be cutting that out. I don't know how that fits into their rainbow colourway. It's horrible. It's a nothingy colour. You know the Never-Ending Story, and they're talking about how the nothing is taking over? That's the colour of it, I reckon. So I don't know. I don't know why these cakes, which are such beautiful colours, I'll get that in shot so you've got something to look at, always seem to have a really ugly colour in the middle somewhere. Anyway, what I'm going to do is flip this loom over and show you the floats on the other side, because that is the main point of why I'm doing this pick-up stick pattern. It's not showing up hugely here. It might later, because this will have some shrinkage, this cotton will shrink in a little bit. So we'll see what it looks like when it's wet finished. But just give me 1 second to flip this loom and try and get a camera angle on that. So the weft floats on the other side are creating these warp floats on this side, and this is the effect that I'm actually going for with those floats on the other side. So what we have is stripes of the colour unbroken by the weft. So it's just plain colour, caught every now and then so that we don't have just one big loose thread. That is the look that I wanted. So it is working, it's doing what I want it to, and hopefully it will continue to do what I want it to. I don't know how long this is going to be on the loom for. It is a long wrap with a thin weft, and I can't promise it'll be off the loom for next week, or maybe even the week after, but we'll see how I get on. And after a couple of weeks, I have a bit of an update on the cardigan. I'm not as far along as I would like to be, but I have finished this cluster section, rounds of clusters. So that is done. that bit, this bit, the diagonal up bit of these clusters, and then I'm moving now into, I think it's V-stitches around for a couple of rounds, and then we're getting into the complicated stuff. But it is looking like it's supposed to, she said, not very confidently. But that's how it's looking at the moment. Much the same as the last time, because I think the last time I was maybe 2 or 3 rows back from there. But that cluster section is done. I'm ready to move on to the, it's kind of like a buffer, couple of buffer rounds to kind of add some length, and then we're going to do some fancy stuff at the edges. And then I've got to put sleeves on. I keep thinking I'm not that far off, and then I remember, oh yeah, there's supposed to be sleeves. But that is what I have for you this week. Hopefully next week I will have something on the little loom, if not completely woven. I remain optimistic. And in the meantime, you take care of yourself. Have a lovely rest of your week, lovely start of next week if you want to, if you feel like it. And I will see you next time. Bye for now.